You have the world's richest person spending over $40 billion on something. You can bet his interest goes well beyond tweets or a personal hobby or even going viral. Twitter matters more for its impact on the world than any particular tech it has or even its revenue. And so that's where we begin tonight. You think about those old rules that try to limit how many newspapers one company can own or how much media one company can own in a town, and it reminds us the sense of sheer power of one person owning this platform that shapes media, perception, even potentially elections in many different countries around the world. And there were signs that Musk was doing this, taking this giant bet, spending all of this money and time and energy on Twitter. And he was doing it for his own self-interest and power. And as we've documented before, at the same time, he's a shrewd marketer. So he didn't say, hey, I'm doing this for me. He pitched his takeover to American audiences as a kind of public service for free speech, or even selective right-wing claims about free speech. And then he vowed to save and improve Twitter as a company. Okay, we've reported on this before. Tonight we have some really significant updates, because it's about 8 months later. What's happened? Well, Twitter is now worth roughly half of what Musk paid for it. Traffic to the site, which is the bread and butter and lifeblood of any website or app, is tanking. And the accounts that do use the platform are posting less. Many of Musk's pledges have come up short. It's disappointing even the conservatives who had cheered the promise of Musk advancing free speech.
I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech. It's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely.
For once, this isn't about power and money. Musk is doing it to save free speech.
It's not an overstatement to say it could be the single most important development for free speech in the modern history of the United States.
This is a guy who's made a lot of money. He's been very successful, loves this country and the freedoms it affords.
The first thing he's going to do is establish free speech there.
Okay. There was a lot of talk like that, as you saw from Musk and his fans, and we're just going to look at the record, because anyone is free to love America and free speech. And while Musk rushed to pick sides in American politics, he attacked Clinton, he buddied up to Ron DeSantis, he invited Trump back on Twitter, he fast-tracked a later collaboration with Tucker Carlson. That's all fine. Do what you want. But when you widen out beyond Musk's chosen political spats, what he wants you to focus on or be distracted by, and look at the full record of Twitter around the world, under Elon Musk, the company caves to censorship requests by authoritarian governments. It censors, bans, or removes content critical of the ruling parties in Turkey and India, for example. Now, that is something the previous leaders of Twitter have also done, along with other social media companies. But let's go a little bit deeper. Twitter does it more under Musk. In the year before his takeover, Twitter agreed to about half of government censorship requests that it got. That number now up to 83%, significantly higher in Musk's first 6 months. Now, Elon Musk does not deny this. Instead, the self-proclaimed free speech protector says he's just doing what he's told by the dictators. Quote, we can't go beyond the laws of a country. And as the right-wing applause has faded, even some conservatives are now hitting him for, quote, bowing down to dictatorship. That's a Fox News item right there. Musk has proven to be, at best, a fair-weather fan of free speech and a free press. He turned on the free speech of the journalists when he opposed some of what they said. He banned them from Twitter and later reinstated them. He also trolls and plays games, which is designed to sort of confuse people or distract from things I just showed you, like the data of the measurable rise in Twitter censorship around the world. So, for example, he dived into a term that some progressives have used and tried to treat it as a kind of what he argued was hate speech or a slur. The Washington Post noting the self-proclaimed free speech absolutist declared the term cisgender to be a slur and threatened to suspend people who use the term on Twitter. Now, again, you can have a debate about all sorts of stuff, but the free speech absolutist telling you that he's now picking what words you can say and will ban you for them is obviously, well, contradicting himself. Now, Musk engages on those matters. He personally oversaw the firing or ousting of a lot of staff from the prior Twitter administration. And then there are business failures. Now, that's a problem for any company. but especially for free market conservatives who have argued the market is the judge of a leader like Musk. Well, the business of Twitter is cratering. This is the other update I mentioned. Musk fired or faced resignations from the majority of Twitter's staff, including the trust and safety team. There are company veterans who argue he basically was taking deliberate steps to invite or require that exodus. There are policies that disbanded a safety council that tries to address online challenges like alleged hate speech, child pornography, statements of self-harm. And there's early data showing the site has now seen this spike in hateful, violent, and inaccurate posts. Derogatory language, including the use of the N-word, has skyrocketed, which again is a contrast to Musk's apparent eagerness to troll or threaten to ban other words, but not get that one under control. Now, I want to be clear with you tonight. Whatever you think of Mr. Musk, and you can see his, well, contradictions or hypocrisy, some of these are complex and debatable issues for any publisher or social media company. Meaning, I'm not going to try to resolve them all with you this moment, but I will tell you this. The markets don't like what Musk is doing. They don't like the reality or perception that Twitter is more lenient towards hate speech or those problems. There are advertisers who are ditching new Twitter under Musk. Indeed, about a 50% plunge in ad revenue, which Musk concedes. And the company, like any company, can debate volatile and noisy valuations. But Musk says Twitter has lost over half its value since he bought it. So the business guru is not exactly delivering business results, which were much promised, and that undercuts some of the early right-wing buzz.
He's our Edison. This is our Thomas Edison. This is our Da Vinci of our generation.
He's draining the swamp of Twitter, and it needs to be drained. But the way that he's doing it, to me, is genius.
You know that he is a genius when it comes to Tesla and when it comes to SpaceX. When Elon comes in, he's going to have sophisticated data analysts.
It's just going to happen like that, right? Unless it's not. So why are so many people getting this so wrong? I mean, I just want to level with you. Part of what we're seeing on the right is a kind of partisan hero worship applied to a business leader, which itself is kind of odd, but we all know how partisanship can work. Partisan fans get very biased towards their party or team, and that can put you in kind of a box. Those kind of blinders now being applied to shield Musk, a very rich, powerful man, from objective judgment from some of those quarters, even as independent experts see his leadership besieged by these missteps. And there's measurable failure. I mentioned traffic is tanking. The top voices who power a site like this are just using it less, posting less. And other users say they're just taking a break altogether from Twitter. Now, some of Musk's changes just didn't work. For example, he had the idea of charging for verification, basically taking something that was an authority system where you say, oh, that's really the person it says it is, or that's really the New York Times account, and putting it up for sale. Now, again, as with other things I've said tonight, whether you personally like that or care about that is one thing. But as a business, the market test has Musk failing. The market and users largely rejected that system. Many say it stoked confusion. And that's not just happening in a vacuum. The turmoil created an opening for a Twitter alternative. There are some startups out there like Blue Sky. Then there's the big incumbents like Mark Zuckerberg's company, which has now recently unveiled its alternative, Threads, which is a threat to Twitter. But now these two billionaires are getting in their bro bags, openly taunting each other about a physical fight. I can tell you that is really unfortunate. Some tech reporters are charting this as a kind of Musk tantrum or meltdown over all of the meta competition. And at the most basic level, Musk looks weak, losing a popularity contest to Mark Zuckerberg and his 100 million new Twitter users on a non-Twitter. At a business level, let's be clear, Zuckerberg's company is not exactly innovating here. It is stepping into a void that Elon Musk created with all of those actions that had users and advertisers bailing. Threads' early success has nothing to do with Threads, argues NYU business professor Scott Galloway, citing instead the dysfunction at Twitter and noting Musk's behavior lowered the drawbridge and Zuckerberg walked through it. So that's the Elon Musk part. Now, he was also an effective entrepreneur and marketer with his other companies, pointing out that Elon Musk's claims about Twitter and political free speech were off base, doesn't mean he has no business acumen whatsoever. It just means his recent attempts to combine a right-wing partisan agenda with running this particular company is failing. There are also some wider trends. So to be accurate or fair, there's the point that Twitter is still built on the old arcane follow-based social network where users manually seek out accounts they want to follow, like Facebook. Tech writer Taylor Lawrence explains this. The most popular apps these days are not those kind. The new ones, like TikTok, deliver content to a sophisticated feed. Now, under that analysis, again, whether you use these social media devices or not, these apps or not, this is a big part of our world and our politics. The analysis there is that Facebook and Twitter are more like a library where you kind of have to walk your way through the aisles and work to pick out books. And TikTok is more like a modern TV that serves up all the shows, news, or fun you could want without any work, decisions, or thought. It just keeps coming at you. Now, the reach and control of these platforms matter for society and democracy. That's why they're on the news tonight, not because we're obsessed with Twitter on the beat. They matter to the new generation, to the young people, if you will, just like radio mattered to FDR or TV mattered to JFK. And when Kennedy mastered television, watch out, because there wasn't a politician that could really beat him in a televised debate. That may be why so many Republicans thought a Musk Twitter would not only help them go viral or dunk on their enemies or post trolling content, but it might help them win elections in an environment where you might have noticed Republicans have struggled to win national elections. So they gave Mr. Musk a lot of latitude over these last 8 months. And what's he done with it? I showed you tonight. He's squandered it, a lot of it, on a path that has hurt his own credibility, his politics, and yes, his own finances.